Still particle, still particle. Boston Celtics, still particle, still particle. Oh yeah! Still particle, still particle. Boston Celtics, still particle, still particle. Banner 19.
Beat Rob, Jim, Beckett, J. King.
Still particle, still particle.
The Caesar on the court to get another ring.
Still particle, still particle. Still particle, still particle. Boston Celtics, still particle, still particle. Oh yeah! Still particle, still particle. Boston Celtics, still particle, still particle. Banner 18.
J. King, Jim, Beckett, and the Beat Rob.
Still particle, still particle.
The Jay-Z, White, and the Catalog.
Still particle, still particle.
The kids are legends, the gods.
Still particle, still particle, still particle. Boston Celtics, still particle, still particle. Oh yeah!
I just have to go to a bathroom.
Welcome back to Still Potable, the best Celtics podcast here. I forget
on Jay King's internet.
On Jay King's internet. I completely forgot about Al Gore's internet. You threw me off last time by interrupting, and it really threw me for a loop. That's Jay King. Apparently, he invented the internet. I am Sam Jam Packard. Oh, he just owns it now. Possession is 9/10 of the law, and Jay King's been dominating the internet for a good 10 years.
Is it actually,
now.
Mr. Lawyer?
No, there's many different rules about possession. I don't think it's 9/10. I don't think the law is often broken down into percentages. That's just not how it works.
So that's just a cockamamie statement.
One of the most cockamamie. I'm Sam Jam Packer. This is Still Potable, the best Celtics podcast. We're coming to you after day 2 of Celtics training camp. And if day 1 was the fast, everyone's going to be playing faster. That's what the major theme to come out of day 1. Day 2, I thought Joe Mazzulla said it well. You can play fast on defense. And so, like, this pace thing, it's not just getting out in transition. It's about playing aggressive defense, and it's about generating some turnovers, which is just not something the Celtics have done in the kind of Joe Mazzulla era.
Yeah, and realistically, this team needs to find new ways to win. And they have been one of the most efficient offenses. They have been one of the most efficient half-court offenses. Their true shooting percentage has been through the roof. They've been one of the most efficient shooting teams in the history of the NBA. And realistically, they still have a lot of shooting, but that's not going to be your lone path. You're also probably going to have a fall off on like half-court defense because you've lost significant rim protection. You've lost tons of IQ. You've lost a wealth of experience, and you didn't really replace any of that. So Joe Mazzulla, maniac competitor that he is, he's not going to just sit there and concede that this team is not going to be great. He's going to try to find new ways to win, and I think they'll have some. I think, last year they were a middle of the pack offensive rebounding team. Why can't they be one of the best with Nimi and Luka Garza, who have been historically great offensive rebounders, and without Porzingis and Horford, who didn't offensive rebound much at all and were oftentimes stationed at the three-point arc. And, you played slow because you had Jason Tatum, because you had an older team, because you had played a bunch of big guys, including big guys who were a little less athletic than the average NBA player. You don't have those guys anymore. So pick up the pace, run and gun, rely on your guards, launch some threes, get into guys, start to force some turnovers for the first time in the Joe Mazzulla era. And if you get better on the boards, or on offensive rebounds, you're probably going to get worse on defensive rebounds. If you get better on offensive rebounds, if you start to force turnovers, you start to give yourself new ways to win. And obviously they are very focused on just playing at a faster pace. And I don't think, like Joe indicated, I don't think it's just offense. It's going to be every aspect of the game. They're going to try to attack you in ways that they either couldn't last year or just didn't because they had other ways to win that they were super efficient with.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still going to be about the margins. It's just finding new ways to win those margin battles. And so if you can create more turnovers, you're going to get more shots in their team if you can increase your pace. And so it's about using the personnel you have. I like the idea of crashing the glass more, just anything you can do to generate more possessions than the other team. And so I think I'm most curious about it's like, how are they going to generate more turnovers? Are they going to be like picking guys up? Are we going to see a lot more like kind of the junk 2-1-2 full court presses? Are we going to just see picking guys up a lot more, extending that pickup point farther out? It's a big question because last couple of years they were able to rely on Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, and Luke Kornet to be these kind of major, not only just large rim protection, but like I think they were pretty smart defenders and knew how to kind of back that up. Really, now you're relying on Neemias Queta and Luka Garza as your main size on the back line. And so I think the thing that's interesting to me is it like throwing out more trapping style zones? Is it just being much more aggressive at the point of attack? That could make you much more vulnerable at the rim, and maybe you're just leaving Nimi one on to kind of protect the rim there. And so I'm curious, like how you think if they are going to up the defensive intensity and aggressiveness, how they do that, I guess schematically, without just leaving one guy back there after the first guy gets beat off the dribble.
Well, I've brought this stat up in the past, and it's pretty glaring. Like whenever Kristaps Porzingis and or Al Horford were on the court last year, the Celtics just basically did not force turnovers. Like just
because they were just sitting back, right? Like that they're just funneling guys to the rim.
They weren't playing a style that would force turnovers. You couldn't ramp it up the way that some other teams could and did, because the way that those guys defended was not conducive to forcing turnovers. And I just think with Nimi, he can really move. He can do different things. He can be a very versatile and more of a defensive playmaker, I think.
So you're talking about like switching more and just like
Xavier, but not even just switching. Like if you run and trap, like what's the next guy doing? Al Horford's not just like going into the passing lanes, but Nimi might be able to. And so there's just different wrinkles you can add, different layers you can add to your defense that you wouldn't have tried before, because what those guys did best was never going to be forcing turnovers, getting out in transition, doing all that stuff. But this roster might. I would throw, like, if Xavier Tillman plays, Xavier Tillman is good at that stuff. Josh Minot has been a stock demon during his brief playing time in the league. I just think, and then obviously, Derek White can do a lot of that stuff, but if you ask guys to play a little differently, then maybe the guards will get more impactful and start to play up in passing lanes and start to use their hands more a little bit, get more deflections, and all of a sudden you're out in transition more, you're playing faster, and boom, you're tough to play against, even though you've lost a lot of talent.
This is going to sound dumb, but it's not. They should just foul a lot more. Like the Thunder were very good last year, and not foul just for the sake of fouling, but like be super, super physical on the perimeter. I think the Thunder were an excellent example of a team that they did have their double big lineups, but they only had one big and like a more perimeter oriented guys. I think they have higher level defenders. Well, I don't know. There's still some like Derek White's a phenomenal perimeter defender, but they just played super physical in a way that it was just a bitch to play against them, and they were constantly fouling, but also it didn't let them like affect your pace. My initial thought was like, if you're fouling them more, you're slowing down the game, and maybe you're playing in more half court. But the Thunder were, I think, 6th in pace last year, and so they also created, I think, were best in turnover percentage. So I think there's just being a lot more physical with your guards. This team is going to have to be led by its guards. Like your 4 best players are presumably.
The Thunder didn't foul a lot, by the way.
They played very physical defense.
They were 7th in opposing free throw attempt rate.
Well,
Oh,
touche.
hold on. It somehow took me to preseason. They were 26th. So yes, they fouled a lot. They were hacking motherfuckers.
I was gonna say the eye test there was I watched the Thunder play a lot of playoff games. It feels like they played extremely physical, but like that's what you have to do if you
That
have
was
Peyton
like
Pritchard.
their lone statistical deficiency was that they fouled, and despite Shea Gilgeous pissing off everybody with how much he got to the line, they didn't really get to the foul line much at all.
But how many turnovers did they create in terms of the league? Like I feel
They
like
were
that.
one of the most disruptive teams in recent history, probably ever in the NBA, and they just applied constant pressure. And it seemed like they were reaching, like you said, there was always somebody not just like stunting at you, but like coming hard to try to deflect the ball, knock it away from you, running up behind you, all that stuff.
And so I think
They had a very good defensive
they have an extremely good roster.
roster as well.
I think I think that's
Alex Caruso, Shea, Lou Dort, Cason Wallace, Chet Holmgren, who is one of those new age bigs who can just kind of do whatever you want from him defensively.
I'm not
Hartenstein.
saying the Celtics are going to be the Thunder. I'm just saying the Thunder give you kind of a defensive blueprint. And I think Peyton Pritchard, I think like I thought it was pretty effective in the playoffs of being like the first point of attack defender, like really high pickup points. Obviously, he's a smaller guy, but Derek White can do that. Jaylen Brown can do that. I think the big question is where does Anfernee Simons fit into this? Because obviously he's going to get a lot of points, but can he fit into this kind of defensive mold of the Celtics? And it seems like from day one, Joe Mazzulla has been calling him out and challenging him to be a better defender, saying it right to his face, but pretty much immediately upon meeting him.
It's pretty funny because obviously Joe has never coached Anfernee Simons in a game before. Their first practice was yesterday, and from the sound of things, Joe has pretty consistently been telling Anfernee Simons that nobody thinks he can play defense.
He ain't shit. Yeah.
Simons didn't say that exactly, but he said that Joe kind of hits you with jabs, and that was in response to a question about the defensive conversations that Joe has had. And so my guess would be that Joe has reminded him over and over that nobody thinks he can play defense. All the stats suggest he has never played defense. And he's going to need to play defense this year, number one, to help the Celtics, but also number two, to sort of, I don't want to say rescue his career because
but he's in a contract year to get his next
He's in a contract year. There clearly wasn't a ton of interest based on the fact that they went out and got a 34-year-old Drew Holiday with $100 million left on his contract. And yeah, like if you're being honest with yourself, you have to know, if you're Anfernee Simons, there's just hasn't been a ton of interest at the current contract level that he has around the league. And it's time to repair that reputation. It's time to learn how to play defense. It was interesting after practice today that Simon said the first 4 weeks they worked on some defensive technique stuff. He's like, I've never been taught that stuff.
Which is wild to me. If Terry Stotts and Chauncey Billups have never taught defensive slides and techniques in Portland.
And maybe they're just new techniques. In Portland last year became, like halfway through the season, they started really playing good defense, and Simons wasn't really part of that. And I think that's part of why they moved on from him and turned things over to Scoot Henderson, went and got Drew Holiday, was that they were building a defensive identity with a lot of defensive-minded players. And Simons never really caught up to that change last year after they kind of took off up the defensive leaderboard.
How much belief should Celtics fans have in Anfernee Simons, given the fact that he's just never done it before? Like how much, if he does do it, is Joe Mazzulla the greatest coach of all time?
Well, First of all, I would say like all the evidence suggests that he's been a bad defender. He's also a pretty tall, pretty
He's big.
long,
He's much bigger guard.
athletic guard who, like, if you're looking at him, you would think this guy could be disruptive. This guy could get his hands on some balls. This guy could at least be some sort of detriment. Like, he doesn't have to be a zero on defense. He has been a very negative defender so far. Like, there's no arguing that. There's no denying that. You look at the on-off stats, you look at EPM, whatever metric you want to use. Like, he's not been good at it. But they might have gotten him at the right time in his career where, first he established himself as a bench scorer. Then he established himself as a legitimate starter and someone who can obviously shoot and be a very, very helpful offensive player. But now, there's pressure on him for, determining the way the rest of his career is going to go to pick up that defense and at least you don't have to become Drew Holiday, but you have to become passable. You have to become someone who's not a traffic cone out there. And to date, he's been a traffic cone. They need to change that. And, maybe it really is the right time in his career with the right motivation after getting traded from Portland and the right culture in Boston where, they've got a hard ass coach who's going to hit you with jabs and let you know that nobody thinks you can play defense, but also has coached nothing but phenomenal defenses and knows what great defense looks like, knows how to coach it, knows how to teach it. So if he can't defend in this, with this opportunity, with sort of all the signs, or not the signs, with all the reasons for him to defend right now, then maybe he'll just never play defense.
It's very much a put up or shut up year. And like, it's fascinating that it's like been called out this early. His first like scrum with you guys after practice, it's going to be the main focus. And so I feel like it's going to be something that everyone's going to be, just asking him questions about as the year goes on. And I can see early games in the season. It's like, oh, you're not going to necessarily, like Joe Mazzulla decided to close with Pritchard, White, Brown, Sam Hauser, and Nemi. And he's like, you're not closing with Anfernee Simons, even though he had like 26 or 27 points in a game. But it's just like, we need to get stops down the stretch, and we're just not going to go with him. So it's going to be a topic and whether or not he can close games. So I think it's going to be like one of the major, I guess, focal points of, or especially early on in this year, is like, has he made any improvements? And like you said, doesn't need to be great, just needs to be good enough that like the team can benefit from his offense and not just be destroyed when he's on the other end of the court.
And his emergence as a capable defender is going to be pretty big for the types of lineups the Celtics can use. If they can play Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, and Anfernee Simons together, that changes things for them. And
then they could be that small, fast team that really runs and guns.
Yeah. If you can play those three with Jaylen Brown and Nemi, and you can at least have not a shredded defense, then that changes things. And that could be a fun look. That could be a productive look. But like, you can't play that small and have guys who aren't going to compete on defense, because you'll just get torn apart. And I think there's a lot on Simons, individually, but also from a team perspective, to really, really up his intensity and focus on that end.
Speaking of intensity and focus, Sam Cassell, Celtics assistant coach today, was on Zolak and Bertrand. And I need you to get out the bullshit meter. How much of it is this a bullshit quote or not? Saying in his 35 years in the NBA, this has been the most intense training camp Sam Cassell, NBA champion Sam Cassell, has ever experienced. Bullshit or not, Jay King?
I'm gonna go not bullshit. not bullshit. Do I think it's like far and away no? But do I think they're getting after it? And Joe Mazzulla is setting a culture where they're going to play at a breakneck speed and really get after guys, and that their entire focus has been on ramping up the pace and playing super hard and trying to overcome all the talent that they lost. I believe that. I believe that because like all the players have been saying it. They've been saying it. They said it before practice even started. How Josh Minot said we want to be the fastest team. Xavier Tillman said they were playing at warp speed.
Like 8 different guys on media day were like mentioned playing fast. It was clearly a point of emphasis.
And a lot, like most of those were not being asked about that. It was just that's been the focus from the coaching staff so far. It was a focus over the summer when they were practicing and training, and it remains a focus now. So yeah, to play like that, you have to be in great shape. You have to be getting up and down. You have to be super intense. And based on Joe Mazzulla, I would say things are probably pretty intense. It's also a lot younger group without Al, without Drew, without, Luke. You bring in Simons, go to Garza, Minot.
It's also there's a bunch of competition. Like there's a bunch of hungry guys like who can see if I work my ass off here, I can play myself into a role, because it's like beyond the first 4 guys, the next kind of guys on the bench, like Garza, Nimi, that's a position battle. I would say Shireman versus Walsh, that's a position battle. Minot and Boucher are both kind of competing to see who's going to play that kind of like 4 or 5 role. I think there's an opportunity for a lot of these guys to carve out an NBA rotation spot for themselves. And so they're probably all of them are busting their ass at this point, just because there's just this sense of opportunity. I go back to the Jordan Walsh quote from Media Day where he said something similar, where it's like, there's this like, because the old guys left, it's a new environment where, playing time's an option if you play your cards right. If you do like exactly what the coaches are telling you, which I don't think necessarily was true for these younger guys in past seasons.
And part of last year, some guys had just finished with Team USA or in the Olympics. They had an Abu Dhabi preseason trip that they had to worry about. That was going to be like pretty taxing on the bodies physically, just because the jet lag and the amount you were off your feet, all that. And so they had a lot of other things to worry about. This year, like Nimi played in Eurobasket, but other than that,
it sounds like they've all been in the gym since like June and apparently just running their asses off.
Just running up and down, going crazy, having Joe just sarcastically tell them that they suck.
I mean, it would make me run.
We got a question from Gambling Grant. If Simons is committed to playing defense and is mediocre or capable, does that entice Brad at all to trade him?
It raises his value. Like if he shows in the first couple of seasons that he's not a shit defender, I think teams might be a little bit more willing to try to like up there what they want for him at the deadline. But I think that's like also a short runway for him to like prove that he's a change defender.
Yeah, it's a weird spot because like the Celtics, they probably don't have room for another big contract. And keeping Simons long-term at a number that that's similar to his contract right now might just not be feasible at all. However, if he comes in and, defends at a high level and gives them everything that they want, then he could open some eyes. And maybe that's in Boston, maybe that's somewhere else, but he could definitely open some eyes just by contributing to winning. He said all the right things about contributing to winning and wanting to defend and working at it. So we'll see. It's a prove it year for him.
Definitely is. Maybe he proves it so well that when Al Horford opts out of his second year of his contract with the Warriors, he comes back to the Celtics just to play with Anfernee Simons.
The fans are living in fantasy land.
News came out. Al Horford got a 2-year, $12 million contract, player option on the second. And so, maybe Al comes back because he talked about he really wanted a chance to win. At no point did he consider retiring. He was just looking for a spot to win. So I feel like a lot of it had to do with Jason Tatum being hurt. Maybe he sees what the Celtics can do. Maybe Jimmy Butler annoys him all season long. He just wants to come back to Boston. He's done it before. He has left Boston and come back before to win championships. And so I'm just saying it's not out of the picture
here. I hope for you that it happens.
Thank you. That's one of the nicest things you've ever said. Who's number 42 on the Warriors? Why couldn't he wear 42? Why is he wearing number 20?
Who is 42 on the Warriors?
I feel like my brain goes to Andrew Bogut, but that doesn't make any sense.
I'm looking up their roster right now. Some of these rosters don't have numbers on them.
Yeah, no, Basketball Reference doesn't have any numbers on the 25-26.
42. It says Al Horford. Oh, Tavion Kinsey?
Well, that he should have given that up.
Al's got to pay him.
Al's got to pay him. Al's got too many kids to be paying.
So Al was wearing 20 today.
There's no 42 on the roster last year.
On their roster, it says Tavion Kinsey, who's a rookie, and Al Horford. But Al is going to be 20.
What was Al's number in Atlanta? He was also 42, right?
I don't know what he was.
It just feels weird seeing him in the 20.
15. He was 15 in Atlanta.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe he doesn't really give a shit about his numbers then, and then just wanted 20 because 20 was available, and it wasn't available. Has anyone worn 20 for the Celtics since Ray Allen? Who's the last 20?
Gordon Hayward.
Oh, yeah. The original 2-point daddy. Well, that's definitely something we get too worked up about fans. But I think the dream of Al Horford returning is possible. Anything else? Any other reactions to his news conference out there in Golden State?
No.
Fair enough.
Didn't say too much. Said
that's kind of a classic Al Horford press conference.
Said Golden State was, the place that he would go if he was going to leave Boston. Like, no shit, man. That's where you signed.
That's where you ended up. Yeah. I like Al Horford a lot, but I don't know if Al Horford was ever the best quote. I don't know your perspective.
I disagree. I actually disagree. He was never the most colorful quote, but he was thoughtful and he was typically honest. And if you asked him about the team, like, he was typically right on the nose. I can remember when the Celtics first started their run up the standings in 2022 when they ended up going to the final.
Oh yeah,
in 11th place in January.
You could feel it.
He was like, "We're playing great basketball right now," and they were beating up on like some shitty teams. He's like, "It doesn't matter the way we're playing. That's how we need to play."
It's when the defense and
you always knew that Al had like the pulse on the team, and if Al
wouldn't bullshit you either.
If Al wasn't happy, then there was reason not to be happy. But if he was happy, then you knew they were in a good place.
He would never gas up a team that wasn't playing well. Like, if he's going to say that, like, we're playing great basketball right now, you knew that they were playing great basketball. All right, we're going to end the show. How much did you get to see Jason Tatum watching the Celtics practice today?
So this is already annoying to me. Annoying to me. It was like he was on the court after Anfernee Simons' press conference, and Anfernee Simons walked from the press conference, chatted briefly with Tatum and White, and I think someone else was in there. And everybody lined up to take photos of it or take videos of it. It's like, Jason Tatum is on the Celtics. Those are his basketball teammates.
Yeah.
Of course he is going to talk to them. This is not like a god bowing down to mortals. This is two basketball teammates at basketball practice at the practice facility where we know Jason Tatum is, and the level of focus on on what Tatum is doing, where he's watching from, who he's talking to is just too much to me right now. Just too much.
I saw a picture of like live footage from practice, and then Jason Tatum was just like very off in the distance in the back, and someone just zoomed in on him. It's like, man, he's desperate to play with those guys. And
that was actually a good tweet. I saw that tweet too, and I agree. It was a funny tweet. They said he looked like he was in timeout, like just peering out at everybody else having fun, wanting to be out there, and that was kind of accurate. So I enjoyed that, but I just think it's sometimes you gotta take a step back and like just think, yeah, he's their basketball teammate. He's going to talk to them every once in a while.
He's in the facility. He's going to be there. He is hanging out. All right. We got to do the Tatum update, but good practice day 2. I believe the Celtics are off tomorrow. So we'll get back to it as soon as they start practicing again. We appreciate everyone for tuning in here on the live stream, on the YouTubes, on Twitters. And we'll be back later.
Trevor Story just hit a home run according to Gambling Grant. Tied
the game 3-3. We're going to go watch the end of the Red Sox game. Hopefully they can put away the Yankees.
The Yankees are a loser franchise. There's no way the Yankees win this series.
It's Aaron Judge will never beat
Aaron Judge will never beat the Red Sox. Aaron Boone, I mean, he gave me one of the worst nights of my life way back in 03.
I was so messed up I didn't go to school the next day.
Yeah, way back in 03, I hated Aaron Boone, but now I just thank the Yankees every year for bringing him back. And they're a loser franchise. They had Jazz Chisholm answering questions with his back to reporters,
pretending to fish something out of his locker because he didn't want to face reporters.
It was incredible. At least he didn't go full mime like Shadur Sanders. But
appreciate the mimetic arts. But we'll see what happens with the rest of this Red Sox game. We'll see what
they're
happens.
They're a loser franchise. Aaron Judge is a loser. He will never have a clutch hit in his life. It's incredible. Yankees, they used to be fearful. They used to have guys who were clutch. They used to have guys who you could rely on. They used to have guys that you respected. Like even Paul O'Neill, that whiny little bitch. You had to respect him. I had to respect him. I did too. He was a prick, but God damn it, I respected him. I respected all those guys. But now I have no respect for the Yankees. I have no fear that they're going to make this look bad. And people are going to cut it and make me look like a jackass. They're not, because they're a loser franchise. They stink. They will always stink. They will never win anything of consequence. They went to the World Series last year. That's as far as they will ever get as long as Aaron Boone is there, as long as Aaron Judge is there. Just bunch of soft babies.
It's a perfect place to end it.
Still bottle, still bottle. Still bottle, still bottle.
Oh, yeah.
Slow down from eating and drinking and all that wild stuff.